take those High Templars off because he knows that JangBi's going to need a lot of High Templars to try to take care of his army at this point. More photon cannons being added at the natural, so I assume he already had a second forge coming in on the way. Still large ground army of Hydralisks on the field, while JangBi just sending small skeleton crews of Zealots on the ground, just trying to spot the position to see if they can find an opening, do some harassment. Hiva just staying on those 3 bases. And I think JangBi really wants to take a third at this point, try to establish a third gas so he can really go full-on macro on those gateways. I think he has 6 gateways at this point, and really wants to, never mind, saving gateways. There was that one in natural expansion. So he really wants to be able to produce forces at full capacity from all those gateways. He really needs another base so he can continue getting all these upgrades, alongside getting a large army up, alongside being able to attack with all of these Zealots, really do some damage. Just moving those 2 Zealots around, acting just as sort of a scout, trying to find an opening, going to spot the Mutalisk, so at least he's going to know what to be ready for. Those, at least one of those Zealots, yeah, both Zealots are almost like going to lose his life. It's another Zealot just trying to run circles around the Mutalisk. He's delaying for a little bit, but that's not going to happen. 2 High Templar at the natural expansion, just surrounded by a crap load of cannons, just waiting to be picked off. Another High Templar inside the main, running right towards the probe line behind the middle, so he can actually give himself a more defensive position. Got to be just very careful not to make sure he doesn't storm his own probes. Although JangBi storms, I honestly doubt he's going to throw a horrible storm like that. A lot of Mutalisk number actually coming in. They're going to try to do some harassment. There's a Dragoon coming out at the back. 1 High Templar ready is going to get 1 storm off, but the Mutalisk were in motion. They're going to come in, pick off the High Templar. More Mutalisk, one other Mutalisk, kind of a distractionary tactic, coming in from the right side position, getting picked off, but now the Mutalisk are going to try to move in again. Not going to manage to get in close enough to pick off that High Templar. Far too Dragoons and far too many cannons there, but it is actually going to go for the natural expansion, is going to pick off the High Templar there as they manage to get a storm off. Jang with beautiful maneuver from those probes, getting those probes out of position so he doesn't storm them. But photon cannons morphing in. There's going to be, meanwhile, damage done to those probes, at least 1 cannon being forced to cancel. And those Mutalisks just running around on the rampage, just trying to do some damage, picking off those High Templar, which is so critical. He didn't, JangBi really being forced to defend those High Templars really strictly. Try to position them between buildings, between a lot of cannons, and this is just not going to allow him to move out. If JangBi wants to move out, he can't really engage that Hydra army, because engaging those Hydra army with nothing but Zealots is not really going to help him out. JangBi thinking of taking the third to the lower left hand, but not going to be allowed to, simply just with those Mutalisks. He does have a lot of Dragoons in his troops, so at least he's going to be able to do some damage to those Mutalisks with those Dragoons. Not the optimum amount of damage he would want to, but still a large number of Dragoons can hold back some Mutalisks. They are going to be able to take some shots off, because you really don't want to allow yourself to fly into a large group of Dragoons. Even though they don't do full damage to the Mutalisks, they're still going to be able to focus fire and damage and pick off a Mutalisk or 2. Weapons upgrades yet again on the line for JangBi. Just finally now moving up with this troop, going to attempt to take his third, but these High Templar are going to be picked off. 1 High Templar, no, almost gets picked off. Does manage to get a storm off, I believe, killing a Mutalisk. Well, it does, so Mutalisk going to come back, pick off the High Templar. 2 more High Templars, 1 going to get picked off. Another storm, beautiful storm there. Mutalisk not in motion that time, so a lot of them getting picked off. Only a few Mutalisks left at this point, but they did do their job. Even more Mutalisks on the way. A lot of High Templar being picked off. Only 1 High Templar still in that group. A lot of Dragoons alongside some Zealots, I believe, moving along the field, and he just has some observers alongside, so just using those Dragoons to help out with his Mutalisks, just because he knows he's been having a lot of trouble with keeping those High Templar. Has that 1 single High Templar going to get a storm off before it gets picked off. Did get 1 decent storm off a large Hydra group, but I think he lost his High Templar in that engagement, though. Going to try to hold the high ground, not going to manage to do that. Setting some Zealots to the south position just to hold a group of Hydralisks away as he attempts to retreat. Those Mutalisks also coming in to pick off the pieces. JangBi going to try to hold the high ground with the Dragoon, try to fire at those Hydras from range, but really going to be forced to push those Zealots in, going to try to take some damage. The Zealots falling and joining their comrades and becoming Dragoons very quickly. High Templar being picked off as they try to come in and join the battle and help their brethren. Zealots desperate trying to hold those forces back as the Mutalisks come in, and even more Hydralisk reinforcements follow in to support Dragoons. Nothing but Dragoons left at this point to try to fall back to this third position, third base that JangBi's trying to set up for himself at this point, just producing more Zealots and trying to get some High Templar going on the field. But he's already lost, what, 5-6 High Templar at this point. And if he had those, he would have been in a pretty good position. He would have been able to store all those forces. But now he's not going to be able to get up his third. He's going to stick on those 2 bases. He, at this point, I think, should feel comfortable enough. He's been following a lot of forces, a lot of ground forces, but he's won the battle, so I think he should feel comfortable enough to take a third at this point. Well, JangBi really not feeling very comfortable at all. I think he still doesn't have his weapons 1 upgrades, while the Hydras have meanwhile weapons 1 spines and not bothering with Carapace at all at this point yet. Anyway, So it shows what kind of advantage Hiva really did, also with just denying JangBi that upgrade. He'd had that upgrading for so long before he was forced to cancel it. Still a lot of Hydra forces just milling around all over the place in such large groupings. He's just from those 6 hatcheries funneling as many forces as he can. Still has a decent group of Mutalisks out in the field, even 2 of them, in fact, most likely going to be combined together. Just going to continue picking off those High Templars. Going to go right for the main at this point, possibly do some harassment. There are 3 High Templars waiting at the natural expansion, and those Mutalisks have to be stopped right now. Really, 2 groups of Mutalisks, one acting possibly as more of a distractionary tactic. And those High Templar are in a lot of jeopardy. Another High Templar just picked off one shot. Storms being completely wasted on those Mutalisks just to try to force them away. Those Storms are something he needs to build up for those Hydra groups, so at least 1 High Templar. You need 1 High Templar to sit there, wait, get his energy up so you can get at least 3 Storms off into a group of Hydras. If you have several High Templar alongside your Zealots and Dragoons, they can hit those Hydra groups with several Storms. You're going to be in a pretty good position, but just not being allowed at all. JangBi is adding him some more gateways, but he's not really going to be able to produce too heavily. It's still sitting on only 2 gases while Hiva's actually expanding at the 12 o'clock position. Mutalisks yet again going to go for the probes. There are a lot of cannons there. Instantly going to make him fly back. She's not really going to risk those Mutalisks. He needs those in play to make sure that JangBi stays on those 2 bases, to make sure he's not being allowed to do anything. Actually, Hydra's going to move out from the back. We're going to see who's actually going to stay on the ramp and try to kill as many probes as possible. There is a High Templar there, so at least he's going to most likely storm. There is going to be some probe loss. Mutalisks picking in, coming in just at the right time, picking off a High Templar. He did get off a storm on those Hydralisks, though, so most of those Hydralisks did die to the storm. But even more High Templars lost, and honestly, JangBi just in no position at this point to do anything at this point, really. Yeah, nothing really much to say. Hive in such a dominating position at this point, taking an expansion. He could even take yet another one at the upper left-hand position and still be safe enough. He has absolute map control. JangBi has not been allowed to take a third. Even if he tries, he's not really going to be able to hold it, because even if someone manages to push Hiva back, Hiva will be back in a minute with yet another force just pushing at that new base and taking it down, or even at the natural expansion if he feels he can break that. A lot of Zealots on the ground, decent ball of forces, but yet another High Templar in danger of being picked off. Not going to happen this time, as the Dragoons aren't a large enough ball around the High Templars to at least attempt to defend them. JangBi knows he has to push out. He has to do some damage to Troop Gun. He has to take a base. He can't really do any economic harassment at this point, so at least try to win battles. He's going to move towards the south position, going to clear up the forces that are going to pick up his third, and this is really the only chance he has at possibly getting back into this game, picking up another base, holding it, and possibly doing some economic damage, possibly trying to go for High Templar drop, although I honestly don't think that's a realistic. Nice Hydralist there, forcing Zealots back just by morphing into Lurkers, especially if he adds the Lurkers at this point. He's just going to be able to hold it even better. He doesn't really need a large Lurker group. He doesn't really need any Lurkers at this point, but a couple Lurkers wouldn't hurt. Storm's going off, hitting his own troops, and 1 High Templar did go down there in the process. 2 High Templars, just shortly a small number of Hydras actually moving in. There are Lurkers, meanwhile, at the most likely coming in just behind the rapid natural expansion. Mutalisks coming in, picking off High Templars. 1 High Templar still alive. It also loses its life. And now Zealots and Dragoons, a large group here, surrounded on all sides by Hydras. These are all dead men at this point. They can just fight. This is the Alamo here. They can just stand up there, fight for the last breath, fight until they die. The Lurkers behind JangBi's natural expansion are going to be taken out, but he's going to lose his entire army, and GG just as that happens. So honestly, horrible there for JangBi. Really showing the disadvantage that PvZ seems to have for Protosses these days. That huge Hydra combo with Mutalisks to pick off the High Templars really makes those Hydras so powerful, not allowing Protoss any sort of maneuverability at all. It's like, it's been around picking off HTs with Mutalisks, but it's like Zergs have figured out they just need to pump Hydras, get some Mutalisks to pick off the High Templars, and make sure that the Protoss doesn't move out. And you're going to be in a pretty good position. Now, I don't really know what Protoss should do to really counter this. JangBi tried a Dark Archon thing, but that wouldn't work out too well. I think maybe getting some Archons alongside High Templar, I mean, sure, that kind of wastes a High Templar or two, but at least 1 Archon will attempt to hold back those Mutalisks. I don't know what I'm talking about, really. Just Protoss this is not a good time to be Protoss, especially if you're playing against a Zerg. I mean, if guys like Shine Cal are beating Bisu, their freaking Revolutionist, the guy who statistically, I believe, still is the best PvZ player in the world. Something really wrong is going on. But yeah, Hiva does get into, I believe, his first MSL round of 32. I believe it is his first. Don't quote me on that, though. So, and JangBi moves on to the final match where he's going to face off against either Mind or Pusan. We're going to see what happens there, right, guys? GG. Ranching out. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed.